What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? What are you talking about, Adrienne? That is, of course, A Dream Deferred by the poet Langston Hughes. So we went live for the Atlanta Dreams game against the Indiana Fever. And before the game started, we were in the chat, chatting it up. And I made a comment like this. I said, we want the Atlanta Dream to have a nightmare today. We want to make it a nightmare today for Atlanta and not a dream. Somebody put in the chat, a dream deferred. Now you can't just, I'm an English teacher, okay? That's my background, English. And I did a whole lot of teaching of Langston Hughes poetry. And when somebody said a dream deferred, that's all they put in the chat. That's like saying sick 'em to a dog. I know it by heart. I just started rattling it off. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? And then we went on with that. And Langston Hughes, of course, from Joplin, Missouri. I'm here in Missouri, a transplant from New York. So anyway, listen, if you are not with us during these live games, you are missing out. We're going live. We are, it was just a nail biter. We're screaming, we're yelling. I got the towel out, hashtag brown towel. If you know, you know. And we couldn't have any more fun if we were in the same room together. I mean, we sweated out together. We cheered together. At one point, we had 1616 in the chat, 1,616 in the chat. It is exciting. So you guys need to get on board with that. If you've never been involved in our live streams, you have to. We had a great time. Now, this one didn't feel so great for much of the game. This Indiana Fever managed to get the win against Atlanta. Shout out to Atlanta, who had that defense, who had Ryan Howard with 36 points. They made it tough. They made it tough. Defensively, they made it tough. In the Indiana Fever, well, let's just say they had us pulling out our hair and just, people having to walk away and come back because they couldn't take it. I mean, it was just that good. So if you watched the game and if you didn't watch the game, go check out my live and just check it out again. Listen to the conversation that's going on. A lot goes on. And because of that, I'm not going to go over everything all over again. I'm just kind of stopping by. I'm kind of stopping by to ask you, what happens to a dream deferred? I'll tell you what happens to a dream deferred. The Indiana Fever win in overtime, 104-100. And there are a lot of things that went wrong in that game. There were a lot of emotions going all over the place. There's a lot. And like I said, I covered a lot of that stuff in the live, so I'm not going to go over all that again. So in the comments, just keep in mind, sometimes people are like, oh, you missed this or you missed that. Well, I probably didn't miss it. I probably already talked about it in the live. And I'm not going to redo that. But I just wanted to point out, something, okay? In spite of what went wrong, whether you think Coach Sides did stuff wrong, or the team's defense was horrible, or they weren't boxing out, which we talked about a lot in the live. I got very little patience for people who don't box out. In any case, whatever it is, I want to talk about this and not all that. I want to talk about the fact that some people had said when the Fever lost to the Lynx, people had said, as much as we didn't like it, there were people who said this might have been a good thing. This going into the playoffs might have been a good thing for them to have this loss. I hate losses, period. But I understand that concept for sure. And this game, though, I said, well, man, maybe they didn't learn anything because they didn't start off very well either here. And then they start off the third quarter again in their usual third quarter lulls. And then Coach Sides, 1 minute into the third, she calls a timeout. And things turned around. She had to call another timeout, if I remember correctly, in the third quarter. But things began to turn around in spite of the fact that the Indiana Fever were down 16 at one point. There are people in the chat who are saying it's over. I'm predicting a loss by 20. It's not. And I kept saying, no, we're going to win this game. Who's with me? Who's with me? We're going to win this game. You're going to have to buckle down. So when you're down 16, what do you got to do? See, basketball is a game of momentum. It's a game of runs. And if you fold the towel or throw the towel in or fold the tent and leave when you're down, you can, you're never going to win. You have to buckle down, hold your head up, and you got to get after it, especially if you're talking about competing in the playoffs, right? So what I say is it's about momentum. And when the momentum shifts, you want to maintain that. It's about the other team making runs. When they make a run, you want to change that. So there's so many little things along the way. And, a lot of times we just go, it's just over. And if we're feeling that watching, imagine what the players are feeling on the court. And so they got to work really hard to remain encouraged and to encourage one another. So I'm going to tell you that I am extremely proud of this team, even though they started out looking like they hadn't learned anything from the Lynx game. What they did show us is that they could buckle down, they could grind it out, they could turn it up another notch, and they did. Okay, an ugly win, I'll take an ugly win over a pretty loss any day. They still have stuff to learn because you can't be getting down 16 trying to compete in the playoffs. But I believe whether the Minnesota Lynx was a loss was a good loss or not, I believe this was a good test. This is the kind of thing that will sharpen you as a team. This is the kind of thing that will show you what you have inside you, what your teammates have inside them. This is the kind of thing where you're building muscle. You're building game muscle. And muscle, we know, has memory. And so they built up a little bit tonight. They dug deep tonight, and they managed to get the win. The first overtime of this season, and Atlanta's, I dropped something over there, and Atlanta's second overtime, I think they said 2 days ago they had overtime, and they could have folded. Aliyah Boston busted out with a career high 30 points. At the beginning of the game, I wasn't feeling Aliyah Boston, but I'm telling you, she came, she took care of work with 30 points. Lexie Hull does what Lexie Hull does. She missed 2 free throws at the end, but Lexie Hull, what she brings to the court, it's just phenomenal. It really is. Her 12, and then the coach who, she decided that she wasn't, she had some people in there earlier, they weren't producing. You know what? She obviously didn't feel an allegiance to keep them in. She said, I'm going to go with this nucleus where it's working. So I appreciate that from her. Aliyah Boston, like I said, 30 and 13. And she had 3 offensive rebounds, 10 defensive and 3 offensive. And understand, one of those offensive rebounds was huge at the end of the game when Kelsey Mitchell missed the shot. Aliyah got it, put it right back up. So kudos. And Kelsey Mitchell with her 21. And of course, Caitlin Clark with 26 and 12 and 5. And so, yeah, this was a hard win. You look at a team like Atlanta and you go, they were 12 and 22 coming into the game, and you look at them and you think, oh man, this should be an easy win. There's no such thing as easy wins, especially during this time. And a lot of teams are better than their record. And besides, you don't play a game, you don't play the record. You got to play on the court. On paper, maybe you should win, but games are not won on paper, they're won on the court, and it has a lot to do with matchups. And so again, I'm just going to say, I think they earned gained some muscle. I think that they were tested and they passed the test because you could see when the momentum shifted. You can see when they turned it up a notch. You could see that they said, oh, no, we're not going to lie down and die. We're going to push. And that's what they did. They were frustrated earlier. CC, you saw her going into halftime, just kind of storming off. A lot going on there. And again, I'm not going to go through all that again. What I am going to do is say, this was a good test. They dug deep, and that's what playoff teams have to do. Coaches as well, players as well. And when it comes down to the wire, you find a way to grind it out and win. There are a plethora of things they need to do better. I'm not going to go through that again. But in the end, They did what they had to do. Someone said in the chat, Caitlin Clark carries a huge pressure. Everybody's looking at her. If they don't win, they're looking at her. You know what? And this is what I said. That's what happens when you are one of the greats and you welcome that pressure. It's always going to fall on you, the pressure, but you count on your teammates, and that's what she does as well. We know that. We see the assists, right? But the good players, they welcome the pressure and they learn from it. And that's what we saw tonight against the Atlanta Dream, who really deserves great respect for that. That's all I wanted to say. That's all I wanted to say. What happens to a dream deferred? Yeah. Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? This became a nightmare for the Atlanta Dream, who's fighting. They want to be in the playoffs. So they came with it. They said, we're not backing down. And they didn't. And so we had to raise it. We had to elevate it. And we eventually got there. And I want to show this one play. Toward the end of the game. Let's take a look at this. And I'm going to explain to you what I want you to see about how you sometimes have to play when you're not playing. You didn't get that fast break. You didn't get to run like you wanted to in this moment right here. And how do you play in the half court? I'm going to show you this because this is beautiful. No sound except my voice. And you can see that we are in a key point in this game. It is 98-98 with 1:12 left in overtime. And if you watch the game, you know that it was intense. And so every possession matters at this point here in overtime. The first overtime for the Indiana Fever of the season, the second for Atlanta. So this is after a timeout, as I recall. Lexie Hall is here. She is inbounding the basketball. You've got Aliyah down low here. You've got Caitlin with her back to us because she's going to go that way toward the right corner. You have Temi in the game here. And then you've got Kelsey in the game here. It's 98-98. You're already in overtime. So let's talk this through. We're going to go nice and slow. So Lexie is inbounding the ball. What does she do? She wants to get the ball down low, which she does, to Aliyah Boston. At the same time, you'll notice that Temi, she had cut and she was cutting to the basket. But Aliyah gets the ball down here. And what does she do? She wants to she's way out here, right? So now she wants to get to the paint, get to the lane, right? So she's backing down, nothing for Temi. So Temi gets out of the way. Aliyah's backing down. But what happens? Now you're going to see a double team. So now the double team comes here on Aliyah. So Lexie got it to Aliyah. Aliyah sees what she's got. Notice her head is up. And now here comes the double team. And then not only that, here comes Ryan Howard as well. So she's sort of got a 2.5 team going on right here. Lexie's at the top. So Aliyah makes her move, but when she realizes that she's got double team plus coming, what does she do? She says, okay, I got nothing. I'm going to back out to Lexie Hall. She kicks it back out to Lexie Hall, and notice what she does. She immediately reposts. And then what? So then Lexie gets it back to Aliyah, and Aliyah then is now one-on-one. Because what happened? Look at this. When she passed the ball to Aliyah and she had nothing, Aliyah passed it back. Now, when the ball went back, notice the double team left. So now that the ball comes back to the perimeter, instead of the double team, she turns because now she's like, okay, so Aliyah is no longer a threat. So now I'm going to go back. I'm going to get out of the way and go back and defend where I was. But what happens is Lexie just reposts. Aliyah calls for the ball again. Repost. Dribble by Aliyah going one-on-one. She turned. Now the defense tries to come and help. Too late. Aliyah splits it and then turns and scores. Again, she gets the ball to Aliyah. I want to show you this again. I'm going to tell you what people generally do. The ball comes down here. Dribble, but nothing. She got nothing. She's so far out. She's got nothing going on. And here comes the double. Here comes the double. And this is the smart thing. And I believe Christy Sides called this. And I'll tell you why. So here she is. Here comes the double. And then what? She kicks it back. And immediately Aliyah is reposting, hand up. And Lexie goes right back to her real fast. Now, I say this was something that Sides called because Lexie didn't even look in the other direction. So very often when you get the ball into the post and they've got nothing and they kick it back out, they just go and they pass the ball. They just reverse the basketball. But in this case, they said, nope, I'm going to post up, get the pass, and then if I got nothing, I'm going to kick it back out, and immediately I'm going to repost, and then I'm going to attack the basket. And that's what we see here. Inside, she's way out. She's way out, almost at the three-point lane. So Lexie's out there at top. Then what does Lexie do? She's there. She's there. She's there. She's about to screen for Mitchell to come across, right? But nope, that doesn't work. You see Kelsey communicating with her. And then what does Lexie do? Lexie says, okay, I see they got the double coming. So now I'm going to come back where I was, get it, and then immediately go back in. And then the double is gone. And then Aliyah turns. And therefore, that's something that I used to go through with my players on the high school level. We used to practice, get the ball to the post. You've got nothing, kick it back out, and then get deeper if you can and repost again and get the pass back in there. Beautiful. And so let's just take a look at this at normal speed. Beautiful basketball. Now, again, if you're the Fever, you want to play fast paced. If you don't have to do that and you can get buckets in transition, then that's wonderful. But you can't just get buckets in transition. You're going to have to play half court offense at some point. And that was beautiful. Get the ball into the post, make your move, be able to keep your eyes open and read what the defense is doing. And then what? She kicks it back out, immediately repost, boom, right back. When the double leaves, right back, and boom, go to work. So I just wanted to point out one play. Like I said, we went through a lot of stuff during the live. Go check that live out. But I did want to talk to you about what it is to grind it out and get a win. And I just wanted to show that one play because I thought that that was absolutely beautiful. So we got a lot of work to do, and but we'll take this win for sure. All right. So I guess I'll leave you with that. And I'm going to be, just so you know, as I said on the live, going to be launching some memberships for the Adrienne Ross Show memberships on YouTube. So you probably wake up and see that information, the video on that because it's late. So you might not be up long enough to see it when it unfolds. But all right, again, come and hang out with us during some of these lives. All right. God bless you abundantly. I'll catch you next time, God willing.